Okay, so here's what I was thinking. Now, at first I was gonna make a what if Deku had Dio's mask, but then I was like, no, I've been doing way too many Dio what ifs, and I need to make a Naruto what if, because if I keep on making only, as I was saying, if I keep only making Deku what ifs, then my channel won't really get anywhere because people are gonna get tired of it. Now, the way that is no, the way that Naruto would find this mask is he would be walking around inside of the village, lonely as hell, and he's basically finding, trying to find some food other than ramen because he's always liked ramen. But if he only eats ramen, he's most likely gonna, well, die, or probably his teeth are gonna go rotten. So he needs some real food. So he's walking around the village when he's keeping his head down low. And just like he didn't want, a mob then noticed, well, a group of people then noticed Naruto walking. So they all started chasing him, throwing stuff at him. And basically, they would chase him around. They would basically chase him around the entire village. Now, people would think that he was just causing trouble, so they didn't decide to help him because they didn't know that all he was doing was walking around, and they honestly wouldn't even have cared if all he was doing was walking around because of all the pranks that he pulls. Now, as he runs and runs and runs and runs, he gets caught up at an alley. He looks behind him, and the group of people are there. There's a group of women, men. Some are even a little older than children, just all around teenagers, that he's done the smallest mistake on, but that was just annoying. They all have some type of bat, some type of crowbar, something to break his bones. They then say, "Get him!" Now, Naruto tried to ninja dash out of there, well, but he couldn't jump up fast enough, and someone caught him by the leg and threw him back down. Now, four people then grabbed him by his arms and legs, and basically, the person that basically looked after that part of the village, and or kind of like a gang, but like a family of sorts, kind of like the mafia. Now, he then decided to then grab a crowbar from one of them and then say, "I've been hearing you've been stealing from me. Now I know you're trying to become a ninja, and this would be a bad look for you becoming a ninja. But did you ever look at it this way? If you were to ever be caught." Now, Naruto's just crying. He doesn't even answer because he knows either way he's gonna be beaten almost to death. If not, they're going to kill him. Now, he then says, "This is why you don't mess with the Tatsumi family." And then he lifts up the crowbar and starts breaking every single bone in one leg. No, he's not breaking both of his legs at the same time and his arms. No, he's breaking all the bones instead of one leg. He's doing this one at a time. He's making sure that the breaks are extremely small, just so he'll really learn his lesson. He then says, "This is also why you don't steal." And then he hits his leg with the crowbar 6 times, breaking his bones 6 times. He says, "This is why you don't prank," and then he breaks his arms. And then he looks at him in the eyes for this one. And as Naruto's crying on the ground, begging for mercy, he then says, "Kid, I think I'm going to torture you for a little bit longer." He then lifts his crowbar, which he's one of the villagers that know that he's not physically a monster, but he still, for some reason, blames him for what happened to the village. And then he said, "Kid, this one is for making us run all of this way." And then he starts breaking his last arm. Naruto's screaming out of pain, but this time he doesn't only do 6 bones. No, he keeps on going and going and going and going and going before he can feel the bones in the crowbar getting so small that it's noticeable. Just getting so small and just all around shattered that he can tell just by hitting the crowbar. At this point, blood is coming out of his arms. There's not even bones sticking out of his arms. And a lot of his bones are on the ground away from his arms. They were hit so hard they were flung outside of his skin. Now, they then throw his head into the ground, and then they all walk away. As Naruto's beaten and bloodied body is sitting there getting ready to either die or heal. The Nine Tails can't do anything about his right arm. All of a sudden, he breaks through the floor. He's confused because, my bad, that was my Discord. He's confused because the last time that he checked, he wasn't under wood, he was under concrete. So then he keeps on falling and falling and falling and falling until he eventually hits the ground, which this does hurt. But he's wondering how he didn't die. That fall would have killed any ninja. Now, if you didn't know, ninjas don't, you know, they can still die from extremely high falls. If you didn't know, they can survive extremely high falls, but to a point, they can't survive certain falls. Now, anyway, he then looks up and he sees a mask. This mask was hidden well when it was first installed underneath the village, which this is before the time of Dio or JoJo. I mean, there still are JoJos in the world, but they haven't like they haven't discovered Hamon or stands. They haven't learned about the mask. Well, they're learning about the mask. Now, he looks up at the mask and then he's he's just confused. He's confused on why someone would bury a mask. Which the reason for this was because, kinda able to destroy every human on the planet with the mask. And sometimes, remember that word, sometimes be able to survive sunlight. So basically, he picks it up and puts it on and doesn't do anything, and he's confused. Now, I know what you're wondering. Isn't both of his arms broken? How did he put on the mask? Well, his left arm was healed, but the thing about his right arm was it was completely shattered. The Nine Tails could only hold it together. He couldn't even fully heal it. So, that arm's kind of fucked. And basically, he sees right next to the mask a dead body. Apparently, someone tried to grab the mask. Now, he's confused by this. He then says, this this dead body, it had to be here for th- thousands, maybe, maybe even tens of thousands of years. Sorry, I forgot what I was saying. He then says there's no possible way that this man and this mask could be this old and still hold blood within them. Which he knows this was thousands to tens of thousand years ago. He knows this because the cuts aren't like ninja cuts. They aren't clean. See, the thing about ninjas is they can cut with such precision, and this is most ninjas. They can cut with such precision that sometimes not that much blood actually goes within the air. Now he picks the man up to see if he could find anything. Maybe, maybe anything to climb out like a rope or something. But then he realizes this man didn't try. This man didn't try to go and grab the mask. No. He then realizes there's other dead bodies all around him. He then he then falls back and he says, "No. This man placed this mask here, or these people placed this mask here, and then they killed themselves to protect the secret of the mask." Now, as he then realizes this, he puts on the mask and then he says, "What's so special about this?" He then begins checking the guy, and the guy still has a little bit of blood in his pocket from, dying, which I'm gonna say is dried up. So he feels inside of his pocket, and then he feels this crustiness. He then reaches his hand out, and then he sees blood and maggots on it. He then starts shaking his hand inside of fear, and then the flake of blood gets on the mask, which Naruto is sad at first, but then all of a sudden he tries to take the mask off and it isn't coming off. He's wondering why until sharp claws come out of the mask and stab him into his face, deep into his face. Naruto then starts screaming in agonizing pain. This was worse than them all beating him all in all in one. Now he screams and screams and screams, and eventually he hits the ground. The mask then falls off of his face. This is a new Naruto, a better looking Naruto. You can tell it's still Naruto, but he looks better looking. He looks like he's healed up. He just looks all around 10 times better. Now, he then gets up and grabs the mask, and then looks at the masks. I mean, not the masks. I meant to say the mask. And then feels his face. He then jumps upwards and he's able to actually get out of the cave, which he wasn't able to do because all of the bones in his body were broken. He could have easily jumped up there, but he wasn't able to. Well, at least from the walls. He could, like, grab onto the walls and basically use the walls to jump up higher. Now, basically, he gets back out and he looks around. People then say, "Who's the handsome boy?" And he turns around and then people see that it's Naruto, and then he said, "Oh, it's just the demon fox." Now, as she says that, it's nighttime, and he looks at her with rage within his eyes. If you did not know, the mask makes a person angrier, more likely to actually do something that could get them in trouble. So we think it's angry, like completely pissed. And then he runs over to her and grabs her so fast people didn't even notice that she was there. They thought she had walked away. But Izuku, I mean not Izuku, but Naruto had her in his hands. And he looks over and her skin's more wrinkly until her skin starts to turn black. And then he lets go of her. He then looks at his hand and his hand has blood on it. And he feels more, how do I describe this? More energy. He then looks down at his hands again and he says, "Oh, this will be fun." That's where I'm gonna leave it off, you guys. If you guys enjoyed, then you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna see you next time.